Welcome back to Draw 7 coverage of the 2019 Canadian Curling Club Championship. We are live at the Leduc Curling Club in the Leduc Rec Center. Darren McEwen alongside Denver Suddy. And Denver, we are in for a matchup today of two teams looking for their first win here in the women's draw, Nunavut versus Northwest Territories.
That's right, it's a battle of the north here. We've got two teams, as you said, looking for their first win, and so this should be a good matchup to follow here. It looks like all the teams are lining up at the hog lines here, waiting for a big group shot. Looks nice and hot here in the booth.
It'll give us a chance to meet these teams. Curling out of the Hay River Curling Club in Northwest Territories lead Ashley Rowe, the second Dana King, third Kathy Heron, and the skip Katrina Delory. And they have their coach as well, Paul Delory, excuse me. And out of the Iqaluit Curling Club in Nunavut, it's lead Gayleen Shoemaker, second Carmen Kutu, third Megan Ingram, and the skip Denise Hutchings. And as we said, both these teams looking for their first win. It's an 0-3 record for the Northwest Territories, Denver 0-2 for Nunavut. But this is a real good chance for both of them to have a good game and get one on the board.
Yeah, absolutely. It's been interesting. Both these teams with a loss to Nova Scotia earlier this week, and Nova Scotia's been having a really strong game. They're currently 3-0, both the men and the women, so they're certainly something to watch out for. Their junior program, whatever they're doing there in Nova Scotia, has been fantastic. There's been tons of great juniors coming out of there in the last few years.
Yeah, we have a number of other games on the full slate of games in action here at the Leduc Curling Club today. Keep you updated on them, but in the women's action, we have next door to us is a team that's doing quite strong, Saskatchewan women taking on the Yukon, and a host of other men's games and women's games. You can find all the scores at curling.ca, but we're about to get underway here. It was a draw to the pin for both these teams. They get to throw two each, Denver, and it looks like Northwest Territories won that. So by virtue of that, it will be Carmen Kutu throwing the first rock here for Nunavut.
Yeah, certainly, and it'll be interesting to see what they do in the first end here. We've had quite a variety here in our coverage. We've had a lot of blanks in the first end, and that's not uncommon as teams get their feet under them and get a feel for the ice. But we've also had some big scoring ends. Just in our last draw, we had a score of 3 in the first end, and last night we had Saskatchewan who had picked up 5 in the first. So it'll be interesting to see if we get guards or if we get a lot of rocks in the house right away.
Yeah, the ice has been quite quick here this week. Rhonda and her team of ice makers have done a great job, but that one, as you saw, slipping a little bit too deep, and quite fast. I've seen where teams have been missing on draws, it tends to be through or heavy as opposed to light this week.
Yeah, not a lot of light shots, and when they have been, they've usually been on the guards, so we've seen a few that have been left a little bit high, and we'll have to see how they feel it out. It's always the first end, you can always expect a few more misses than usual, and maybe a little bit of issues with the weight here as this one slips over the line for the Northwest Territories.
Ashley Rowe, her first rock of this draw 7. Ashley, her first time to a national championship. She wanted to say hello to her family back home that are watching.
Yeah, quite a range here at this event. There's teams that have been together curling for years and years and have made debuts here before. And there's some teams that are very new to this sport. Even some I was talking to, a couple of the gentlemen had been curling for less than 5 years. So quite a spread, and it's really interesting to see. It's quite a special event.
So a little light on that one, a little too. So just getting used to the weight.
An interesting path. We've seen one light and one heavy there, so that's not uncommon. You know, it's easy to overcorrect yourself if you put one heavy and you try and take some off, and all of a sudden you've taken a little too much. So. Right, second of the lead stones here for the Northwest Territories. Ashley Rowe as she lets her second go. They're headed for a draw here. We'll see how much it curls up. We've had between 3.5 to 4.5 feet of curl on a draw the last few games, so it's really curling nicely, and the ice is fantastic.
So a long corner guard and another Northwest Territories stone in the house, top 8. Denise Hutchings is asking her second Gayleen Shoemaker for a hit on this.
They're off it right out of her hand here, so this one looks like it might be over curling. Have to be careful not to hit this guard. And they do just nudge it and get a little redirect, but they don't move it out of play.
An unintended tick shot there. So that rock probably won't become a factor for this rest of this end.
We are playing with the 5 rock rule here, so something to keep in mind for both of the teams as they adjust to the ice.
Yeah, playing rules are all the same as you normally would see in any curling game. There are some qualification rules that are a little bit different for this. The teams here are made up of, as we said, club curlers. Each team's allowed only one player who's played at a provincial, territorial, men's, juniors, women's, seniors in the last 5 years. As well, no player on the team can have played on a Canadian junior, men's, women's, or senior national championship in those 5 years as well. So a true club championship. We have some players here who have made their way to Scotties, Briars, and juniors, but not necessarily in the last 5 years, or at least only one of those players from the team.
Yeah, that's right. Even a couple players out here on the men's side that have played some slams as well. So quite a diverse field.
Galen Shoemaker in her second rock of this first end. This one looks a little better than the first one.
Yeah, line looks close. Sweepers are on this one all the way down, but it looks to be moving over nicely, and looks like they'll get it right on the lid, and there they are.
Had a chance to talk to Denise between draws this morning and this afternoon, and Denise has been to Scotties in the past representing Nunavut, and she was saying that I was asking her what the difference is, and actually they spent the morning over next door at the Canada Cup watching those teams compete, and I said to her, what's the difference between the Scotties and this championship? And because she's been to both a couple of times, and she said it's business over there and it's pleasure here. It's meeting players before and after their game. It's getting to know them. It's sitting with them before the game and after the game, asking them what they do. When you go to the Scotties, you generally don't get to socialize much with other teams. As we see a great hit and roll there by the team from Northwest Territories behind that corner guard. It really is Denver a club atmosphere here as opposed to what you would find at one of those other national championships. Even the junior championships, it's a little bit more of a club feel here.
Absolutely, it's a very communal event. I've seen all of the teams talking with each other and then laughing after the game, really no matter what the result is. And it's really unique. You don't see that so much at some of the other really elite events, the Premier, the Brier, the Scotties, things like that. I mean, the teams do know each other. A lot of them have played each other many, many times, but it's definitely more of a community event. Lots of family and friends out at this event, and a lot of club mates watching as well.
Megan Ingram here asked to play an inside-out corner freeze, and that was a Scotties shot right there. What a great freeze by Megan Ingram to start off her draw 7.
Yeah, almost no separation left between those stones. Potentially be able to get on it, but a great shot there, especially for the first end to have that kind of weight down already. That'll serve her well for the rest.
Yeah, it's tough doing those inside-out shots anytime because they're different speeds than the inside-out. But to do it in the first end, really well done. And she didn't have a lot of room for error on that after a great hit and roll by Northwest Territories.
Yeah, they snuck it under that guard there and really perfectly dead buried underneath. So definitely an excellent response to that one.
Kathy Heron being asked to do a similar shot.
Sweepers are off this one. Is it? See how much it'll finish.
Kathy,
slides a little deep there and just
deep.
finishes right behind.
Kathy actually was telling me before the game that she coached Dana and Katrina on this team. And she has been in the past to university and college championships at the national level herself. Must be neat to curl with your coach. Not a big pool of athletes from the north, but it also means that you get more experience than, say, a curler like yourself and myself from Ontario and Alberta, respectively. It's they maybe get those chances to play under the bigger lights of national championship, and we've seen some real great success from particularly the teams from the Yukon this week. Nunavut men also won a game.
Yeah, absolutely, and it's really interesting as well. You mentioned that they're playing with their coach now, which must be special, you know, to have that guidance from her and then be able to work with her in this aspect as well. But it's also really neat because they've had it means they've had really a good chance to play with each other for a long time, and a lot of these teams out here have, but a lot of them haven't. Some of them have only been curling together for a little while, so nice to have that bond and to have built up that trust and respect for over the years.
Megan Ingram from Nunavut there with another great draw to essentially split the rings for Nunavut. 2 Red Rocks, great distance apart, so a good start for Nunavut.
Yeah, Kathy Heron with her second stone here. Looks like she's going for the hit on the stone just off, just in the top 8 there to the side of the 4-foot. This one looks like it might be going a little bit wide at the moment, so we'll see if it finishes up. Sweepers are off it, but just slides by there, unfortunately for them. So it's an interesting end shaping up. Not a lot of rocks in the center, which we've seen a lot, but a lot of stuff, a lot of play to the edges, which is maybe throwing some of these teams off. As you mentioned earlier, whenever you're going out to the wings, you have to be a lot more diligent to learn the path, and in the first end, it's hard to do so, especially on a hit.
Yeah, if you're Northwest Territories too, yeah, you're facing maybe 2 or 3, but you do have hammer, and as you said, Denver, there's good opening down the middle for now.
Yeah, plenty of room to draw to the 4-foot if she should need it later on.
As we get set to see Denise Hutchings' first rock.
First of the skip stones here in the first end.
Sweeper's calling a 2, so that's going to need some sweeping.
See where this ends up here, just past the Curling Canada logo there as it comes tight to the rings.
Great judge there by the sweepers. They were calling a 2 and they swept it for most of the way to drag it to a 3. The zones, of course, across the sheets of ice.
Yeah, it's a lot of technical terms out there, but if you ever hear them call around a 6 to an 8 in there, that's usually around the 4-foot to the button, so that's the range you're looking for if you're drawing to the button, and anything heavier than that is likely going to be through the rings if you don't make contact with another stone.
So we see Katrina Delory there. Might get a shot there at the top right of her father. Paul is the coach of this team. Paul actually played 4 times in this event. He was in Kelowna competing a couple years ago. He's coached at the Scotties as well. So not only do they have a former coach on the ice playing with them, but they also have one behind the glass and one that Katrina knows quite well as she delivers this first rock of the first end.
Yeah, it looks really close here as the sweepers back off for a moment, or back on. They're looking for the roll under this center guard here, and not quite, a little bit of movement there, but close to the nose. But good sweep by the sweepers there to make sure it didn't over curl on them and at least remove the stone. Always special to have a family member, whether they're with you on the ice or behind the glass, even just watching, but to have them as a coach is always got to feel like someone else is there with you.
Yeah, we have a few sisters out here on other teams. We have a few brothers. There's also mother and daughter actually in the sheet beside us, the Saskatchewan skip and lead, mother-daughter combination. You see the little bit maybe of the sister brothers in the elite level teams, but you don't see it as often in parent and child at the elite level. So this is another special aspect of the sport as we see Denise Hutchings attempt to play a hit and roll, but the sweepers really need to hold this one to get a piece of that yellow.
Yeah, it's taken off on them here. They might get a piece as it just over curls on them there. Not for lack of effort by the sweepers though. Great scrub by them.
It's unfortunate as Nunavut was shaping up to get it possibly a force. And just like that, Northwest Territories will have a chance for multiples. They're just checking if they have anything for more than 2, I think, Denver.
Yeah, certainly the draw for 2 is available, but if there's any way that they could pick that red off there on the side, it's certainly possible to score a multiple point end. It's a tricky shot though, so I think they're going to just go for the draw. And I like this call in the first end. You know, you've got a general idea of the draw weight, and I don't think it's worth taking a risk. You know, if you make this draw really just into the 8 foot, you've got your 2, and that's a nice start. Final stone now of the first end as Trina Delory eyes up the rings and gets set to make a shot for 2 here. Just got to get about an inch into the 8 foot, and she's got it. Smart call going this way. If she's a little warm and a little outside, she does actually have that sort of front of house backing on her own stone, so little bump on that and totally fine, but this looks good here as it comes into the rings, just nudges that, and great shot, great close weight there, and that's 2 for the Northwest Territories.
Northwest Territories starting with the deuce. And we'll update you on the other women's games to start with across the other sheets, putting up some scores, but taking a look at, first off, Saskatchewan and Yukon are next door to us, and they're about to hang the score there. We'll give you that score in just a second. Quebec and Manitoba are still finishing up their first end, and just finishing up is Alberta and the team from British Columbia in the women's play. And it was 1 point for Yukon stealing in the first over Saskatchewan, so they lead 1-0 there. We have men's games in action, Ontario and Alberta. It was a blank end to start there. Another blank between Nova Scotia and Manitoba. And also in men's play, we had 2 points for, it looks like, Northern Ontario over Nunavut to open that one. And finally, Quebec men, who are undefeated at this point, got off to an early start, 2-0 lead over Northwest Territories. We're back in our game here, and this is Ashley Rowe from Northwest Territories, asked for the first one to be, I believe, a guard, Denver.
Yeah, it looks like they're going to be just throwing a center guard, and that's pretty standard, especially picking up the deuce in the first end, which has got to feel good. So they were looking for the center guard there. This one looks like it's come a bit short there for them, unfortunately, but that was the call, was the center guard.
Still smiling after that. Ashley again at her first national championship. I asked them, they were actually, the patch for both events is actually next door, and they were sitting around, as most of the players were before this game, having lunch there, and she said she's having an absolute blast at her first national championship, and it's a pretty special one. Previous years it's never been combined with another event. And what an event to be combined with. The best club curlers playing alongside, essentially being featured alongside the best curling teams in our country.
Yeah, that's right, Canada Cup. They've got top 7 men's and women's teams from across the country, and what a prize on the line for that one. Not only $40,000, but a spot in the Olympic trials, so we'll be looking to pick that up.
Mention the other games. You can check out the scores at curling.ca for those other games. You can also go to curling.ca and help out some of these teams that are competing off the ice for a grand prize trip to go to the 2020 Tim Hortons Brier in Kingston. They get an all-expense paid trip for 4, event pass, accommodations, and flight to the Brier in Kingston. This is a fundraising challenge to benefit the Curling Canada Foundation, so youth curling initiatives across Canada. You can donate in the provinces of your pick, or your territory pick, to help them. I believe it's $500 raised for each team gets a ballot or an extra ballot into that draw, and the team that raises the most will win that, gets the most ballots, and then there'll be a draw for the team that wins that. As part of that, Denver, you probably saw set up here at the Leduc Recreational Center a silent auction with lots of cool prizes. So if you're in the Leduc or Edmonton area and are planning to come to the Continental Cup, this event is free admission. And not only that, you can bid on some signed jerseys from some of the elite teams, some really cool local memorabilia from those provinces and territories that they brought with them.
Yeah, lots of neat prize packages. So if you're in the area, come and check those out for sure. And lots of great curling to watch.
And the winner of that last year, which was actually a trip to the Continental Cup in Las Vegas, was the Nunavut women. At the closing banquet, when they announced that, they were quite excited to be able to be flown down from Iqaluit to Las Vegas in January. Is a pretty nice getaway. So Northwest Territories without Hammer right now. They're facing one counter right now for Nunavut in the back.
Yeah, not a ton of stones in play at the moment. It's been an interesting development of this end. I might have expected to see a couple guards up here for Nunavut, but they do have one in the rings at the moment, so looks like they're just drawing in here.
That'll slide to full 8 foot for Northwest Territories.
Is the shot stone for the moment.
2 teams in red out here, Denver. It's going to be, we apologize early if we mistake them, but we're, the jackets look so similar.
Yes, oh yeah, lots of red on each. Nunavut second here. It's Carmen Cujo. It's her stone go here.
Good shot there.
That's a good spot to roll to above the tee line, which is always where you want to have your stones for the most part.
As we see Dana King try to play the hit and roll here to the wing. Gets it on the beak. This is Dana's 3rd national championship. She was in Prince Edward Island. I believe that was back in Charlottetown in 2010, if I'm not mistaken. It may actually be wrong on that one, but someone can fact check me. It was in Charlottetown, and then she was in Thunder Bay after that at this curling club championship. So her 3rd time wearing the Northwest Territories colors.
Some of it comes down here as they get that yellow stone just off the nose, and a little movement there, but
was 2010, and in fact, the winning women's team there was the team from Alberta, skipped by Nanette Dupont, who is here in Alberta, skipping again for Alberta in her home province this time. First time this event, Denver has been in Alberta in the 10-year history of it. So good to bring the event back to the west, but into Alberta.
yeah, certainly there's so many championships going on every year in curling, and it always seems like they're adding a few more events, so always an opportunity to catch something hopefully near you, and so many events going on throughout the year.
This is going to over curl on Carmen.
Might catch the one at the back. Oh, not quite.
Excuse me, Kathy Heron there.
Nunavut sitting 2 at the moment, looking to get a 3rd stone into the rings.
Calling out 3. I think they want this one in the rings. I think it's a little stronger than a 3, but we haven't played, I don't think, inside out on this drop path yet, Denver.
No, I don't think so.
Should die.
A lot of stones. This should settle down, I would say, just past the tee line, and moves into the back 8.
Megan Ingram had draw weight. I think that's her 3rd draw, and she's made each one of them nicely.
Yeah, that's a good placement for it too. When they're spread out like this, it's not too much of a concern when your rock goes behind the tee line, and nice to sit 3, and they are really spread out. So there's good positioning on the stones for them there.
Kathy Heron, she wanted to give a shout out to all her family and friends watching back home as well. This rock's curling as well towards the boards. Might have a piece of it. Enough?
Yeah, it does connect with it there and avoids the jam at the back, so it does roll out, but removes one of the Nunavut counters.
So these teams broken up into 2 pools of 7 teams, Pool A, Pool B. And at the conclusion of the pool play, you will have the top 8 teams advancing to a double knockout format, and then we get into semifinals and finals on Saturday in Leduc. I wouldn't say either of them at this point with their records are out of it, but there are no tiebreakers this year. So those last stone draw to the buttons before the game starts. Each team throws 2. Those are the tiebreakers. So important every rock here as we see Megan Ingram with another draw. This one will be edge of the 8-foot.
Yeah, and it's another great draw from her there. So really consistent on those so far, which has definitely helped to get some rocks in some good positions here. And they're in a good spot right now. They've got 3 counters in, and all of them are spread out across the wings. So
these teams are both, or these teams I should say, are in Pool A, leading Pool A right now in the women's event. Nova Scotia and Alberta alone at 3-0. Prince Edward Island 2-1. Newfoundland and Labrador as well as British Columbia at 1-2. And of course our 2 teams in this feature game looking for their first win. Both of them will go on to play in their next game, Newfoundland and Labrador. Northwest Territories will play them this afternoon. Well, Nunavut plays them, I should say tomorrow afternoon, and tonight Nunavut will play Newfoundland and Labrador.
You see the skip here for the Northwest Territories, Katrina Delory, as she gets ready to deliver her first in this end.
Denver, is she trying to get the big roll here or just roll it into the 8-foot?
You know, a big roll would be nice. I think the call right now for them is to make sure they remove this stone.
Just got to wait for the roll.
Yeah, it looks close. It might need to curl a little more, and jams it on the one in the back there. That was really close to making the double there, so nice attempt there by Northwest Territories on that one.
In Pool B in women's play, Quebec and Saskatchewan both at 3-0. Manitoba 2-1. Yukon at 1-1. They stole the win last night, as you may have seen on the live stream here tonight. Live stream last night against Ontario. Ontario is at 1-2, and Northern Ontario and New Brunswick women looking for their first wins. They're both at 0-3. So Denise Hutchings will be asked or elect on her first for the intern hit. Probably right on the nose would be ideal here, Denver.
Yeah, I think so, and I like the weight choice on this. We've seen a few stones that have been a little bit light over the past few days on the hit weight, and I like when teams choose to play a little more up weight. This one isn't curling a ton for them, though, at the moment, so, but it looks like they'll get a piece, and we'll see where that
because that's quiet weight, I think that will work out better than if she had thrown that. We've seen on this sheet in particular, I think it's probably the case for most of them, if you up the weight outside, even inside the 4-foot, but certainly outside the 4-foot, it will run quite straight. And so really just reserve those normal, as we call takeout or peel weight shots for the times where you absolutely need them, because that control weight we just saw Denise throw will come back for you, and it came back enough for her to sit 2 here in the second end.
The last stone here for the Northwest Territories coming up, and they are facing 2 stones at the moment, 2 opposing stones, and it looks like they're calling for the freeze, which is a bit of an aggressive call here, but they are up 2, so I like, what do you think, Darren? Do you like them taking the risk on this one?
Yeah, I think that yellow stone, if you don't make the double on the 2 reds there, your yellow stone is probably safe to outcount the other one. So I'd be inclined to play. You're already up 2. Be inclined to probably try the double, and even if you miss it, you might give a 2 back, but you could make it and force 2. But this is sliding, but it's sliding into at least that pile of red. See Megan Ingram ready to sweep, and pretty good result.
Yeah, you know, that's a pretty good position for them. And the other thing that shot accomplishes, it's a little hard to tell for sure, but it did bump that red back, and I think it may have bumped it far enough to allow their yellow on the other side of the 12-foot to potentially outcount it, which might end up mattering here. So pretty good result, and you do have to be careful on this one. Pretty easy to jam this stone. The danger, of course, anywhere near the nose, and that will go really just straight back. So
yeah, I think you, excuse me, you have to watch. You don't get it. I think actually if you're outside, you probably come off your red and get your one that way, or even if you don't clip the red, you leave it right there for one. But Denise would love a deuce here to get the game locked back at a tie.
Yeah, there's one yellow there that you see on the side of the 8-foot is the shot stone for the moment.
Denise Hutchings, her final stone of the second end, playing a hit for 2. Nothing to it yet from the front end of Coutu and Shoemaker.
And they're on it now. Can jump towards the center a little bit, but this looks close.
And not quite 2, but a single for Nunavut.
Yeah, it'll be just the one, it looks like there, as they have a quick look. As they kick them away, I believe it is just one. We'll get you the official score in a moment.
So you can see Denise just wondering where she needed to hit that, I guess. I think a little bit higher would have probably still jammed Denver. I think she needed to get to the low side to get her 2 points. It wasn't an easy shot, but she didn't up her weight too much on that one. So a 2-1 lead here for Northwest Territories as they regain the hammer in the third end. These games, I should say, are 8 ends. They're timed as well. 30 minutes for each of the teams with 2 timeouts. Mention the other women's games in action. We have other men's games here at the Leduc Curling Club in Draw 7. Alberta is off to a 1-0 lead over Ontario. Ontario men are 3-0 right now. Alberta 2-1. Nova Scotia men, they're undefeated as well. They're at 3-0 record, and they're taking on Manitoba. And Manitoba men are 1-2. That game, no score. And in one of the other men's games, it's a 3-0 lead right now for Northern Ontario over Nunavut. And Quebec men, who also are 3-0, are leading 2-0 against the men's team from Northwest Territories. As we see Carmen Coutu's rock sliding to top 4 foot. And Katrina will opt for a hit on Ashley's first rock.
Yeah, not a ton of guard action that we've seen. There's been a lot of hits in the house and a lot of attempted freezes and a few draws as well. You mentioned the time clocks earlier, and it's a pretty reasonable amount of time, but it's something else to think about for these teams. A lot of teams at this club level aren't really used to playing with a clock, so just one more thing to consider. And of course, on our feature sheet here as well, we've got the mics and the cameras out there, and a lot of these players aren't used to that, and it is quite exciting for them, but it's one more thing, and you're in a big arena here, a curling club as it were, but lots of teams out there right now, so lots to think about, but all of these teams have been doing well at the pressure right now. So
it's pretty loud out there too. I was out there for a little bit yesterday. 8 sheets in action, and the sound can be a bit of a factor, especially if you're used to playing at a 4 or 6 sheeter. So you see Carmen's second rock, a nice hit and roll. Will it hang on just to the edge of the 12 foot?
Yeah, those rocks on the wings there can often pose a problem for the other team. They are quite tricky to hit, especially whether you're throwing the in or the out turn at them. It's pretty tricky to get to either side of that stone, whether you're throwing towards the center line at it or away. They can be tricky to pick off. So it's a pretty good spot to put a stone. See Ashley Rowe here from Northwest Territories, and her second stone of the end as team does have the hammer.
That one will slip a little too deep.
Not quite out of play, but it is just second shot for now. But those little biters can mean a lot, especially if you have the hammer. We've seen many games where a team's got a few rocks in there and all of a sudden they get jostled around, and those biters are scoring you 1 or 2 extra points. So not something to be discounted necessarily.
Gayleen Shoemaker and her first rock of this third end. We've seen a lot of inside-out plays here in this game so far.
Yeah, I think that has to do with the lack of the center guards, for sure. Often we see play being drawn towards the middle, towards the forefoot. And of course the all-important draws to the button, but due to the lack of guards, and especially the center guards, we're seeing a lot of play to the wings, and that's where a lot of the hits are being either made or missed by a bit of a margin. So interesting to keep an eye on that and see how those paths change throughout this game.
Dana King, a little bit of a speed wobble there.
This one curls over here and able to connect with the stone there, so that one will slide through the rings. Nunavut now, without the hammer, has a chance to put a third stone into the rings.
Sweepers calling 3-2, which would Denver indicate just shy of the rings. But this Nunavut team's had some great draw weight so far. Northwest Territories has responded, though, with some pretty good hits throughout the first two ends.
Yeah, Sweepers come off it now. They've done their job early, so this could slide to around the forefoot or a little past. And it's a really nice draw weight there as it comes just top four, and that's a pretty good judge of the weight there by the Sweepers. They called it to be a little bit light, but they started sweeping on it early and were able to bring it in. Northwest Territories will make the hit right on the nose of that stone that was on the top four. So
most of these, in fact all but one province at this event, qualified Denver last season, which we've talked about in previous broadcasts. Gives a great chance for family, friends, fans, relatives to make their way here to Leduc. It's a pretty accessible place. Of course, if you've flown through Edmonton, you've probably made your way through Leduc, which is where the airport is essentially based. So it's easy for people to get to, and you have months to prepare. So a lot of fan clubs here with each of the provinces and territories. The only province that doesn't is Ontario, which they do it in the fall. They do their qualification there, and they come in as often with a lot of momentum. But these other teams, it gives them lots of time to plan their time off, which pretty much everyone out here is working, or has families and has to plan arrangements for this week away. So it really adds a lot more fans than you would see maybe at some of the other nationals, where you only have a couple of weeks to get yourself across the country. As we watch Kathy Heron here asked to play a hit and roll. And she'll get just a piece of this red, but it might be enough for the double on the wide one.
So it comes across there and does push it. Looks like just out of play.
Out, both those rocks. Kind of a little bit of deja vu from the first end, Denver, when we had those rocks over on the right side.
Yeah, it's something that they could look at potentially freezing to at some point. Might end up with something in play. And yeah, it's as you mentioned there a second ago, it is unique to giving those, teams have a lot of time to prepare. So, they get to practice more as a team and develop further. And so when they come here, they're prepared and they're ready to play. And it's great to, especially as a more community event like this, it's great to give family and friends time to get ready to come and watch them play.
Yeah, and Curling Canada has the mixed nationals the season before, as well as seniors, which similarly gives those teams that represent Canada when they go to the Worlds that extra, not quite season, but in some cases actually I think for seniors it is almost a full year to plan, to practice, to plan, to make sure that they are in top form and ready to go. And I would say not downside, but a lot of teams first draw here, I can imagine they've been thinking about this moment of putting on the jacket and playing, and it's almost like you've worked yourself up for that first game. But by now, having played 3 or 4 games, a lot of those jitters are out of their system and they're settling into a groove. And I think we've seen that by a number of the closer games we've seen as we get midweek now.
As the team settle down here, and I mean, curling is so much of it is a mental game, and so having the opportunity, you've been thinking about it, like you say, for almost a year or somewhere in there, and so you can definitely kind of throw yourself off a little bit, but these teams definitely adjusting well.
So Nunavut sitting 1 right now without Hammer. Denise Hutchings looking to split the house.
Yeah, it's an interesting end. There's a lot of rocks around the fringe of the house. Some of them aren't quite counters, but may serve as potentially things to jam on if we start to see some hits being made. And also they're close enough to the edge of the rings that you could potentially freeze down to them and still be counting a stone. So interesting play this end. It's fairly open, but still a lot of rocks that aren't in the house, but are still potentially usable for both these teams as we get into skip stones.
Yeah, good shot of the overhead there. You can see those 2, particularly that one red, is just outside. I'll say it confidently enough. I share the room with the umpires at the facility here, and they were saying when they pre-event measure the rings, as they do at all national championships, just to see if there's any that are slightly off. Happens a little bit more often at curling clubs. They said the Leduc Curling Club is some of the best accuracy in rings they've ever seen in a curling club. And I guess there's 16 houses out there, and Rhonda and her ice making team have done a great job of calibrating that pinhole in the middle matches perfectly up with 6 feet. They're really going to scrub this to get this into the paint, though. Denise encouraging them to just get a bite of that 12-foot. A good scrub there by the front end in Nunavut, and that will be just enough to sit 2 for the team from Iqaluit.
Yeah, just about half a stone in there. And yeah, Leduc's a fantastic facility. Being from Edmonton myself, I've played here for my fair share of events and things over the years, and they've always had great ice, and this week it's no different. They've done a fantastic job.
8 sheets of ice here in the curling club. Larger arena, the Sobeys Arena, which I've converted into 5 sheets for the Canada Cup. But this rec center has 2 more sheets of ice for hockey, figure skating, ringette. And then they have a gymnasium, and they have a field house, which is actually where the world famous patch is converted to this week. They have a gym, swimming facility, meeting area. It is a real hub in the community, and they've hosted a number of curling events dating back to 1991. I think they hosted the Canadian Juniors here. They hosted Curl for Canada, mixed doubles, which in fact that year was won by the skip of the Quebec women's team that's competing in this event. So a lot of not only events, but a lot of volunteer blood, sweat, and tears went into these hosting these big events.
Yeah, and they have the space to host many at one time, which is the case right now, and certainly last year with the Curl for Canada. And so lots of stuff going on in this facility.
Katrina Delory in her first rock of this third end. Curl up nicely to get half a rock, but roll out. So Nunavut still sitting the 1.
Yeah, a chance now. That one at the top of the 12 there is pretty far off, so not quite splitting the rings, but a chance to put a second in there and force Northwest Territories just to take a single point, which Nunavut would be happy with, certainly, to get the hammer back, and in an even end as well. That's advantageous for them. So looking to put one in a good spot here. Just making sure that their red rock there at the edge of the 12, that's not quite in, but just having a peek there, just making sure it's out.
So it looks like she is playing the hit here, Denver.
Yeah, it looks like it. Wanting probably just to remove it, just in case, and if there's anything else that it's just out of play and won't pose a problem for them. And they'd like to stick their shooter as well. Otherwise, they'll offer Northwest Territories a bit of an out and a chance for a blank.
So final rock here in the third end for Denise Hutchings without hammer. As you see, Kutu and Shoemaker leaning on this one, trying to get nose. They don't really have very much room to roll.
Yep,
and
fantastic
they will not
scrub.
roll. Great sweep there by the front end of the team from Nunavut.
And they'll sit 2 here in Northwest Territories with 1 rock to go here. They'll likely be looking just to draw in for their single.
One of the eligibility rules for this event as well over the years has been that you cannot come back year after year. You can certainly come back in other years, and we've seen that from a number of these players have been here before. You'll see Katrina here sliding out. But the great thing about that, I think, for some of these smaller associations like Nunavut, like Northwest Territories, Prince Edward Island, Yukon, is it allows more people to experience this event and go home and talk about it and make sure that we have 4 different people coming back next year, and the year after it could be those 4 from 2 years ago. As you see the front end from Northwest Territories drag this right to the forefoot, and a great pressure draw there by Katrina Dolori, and that has to make her feel good to widen the lead a little bit. 3-1 Northwest Territories leads after 3 ends here at draw 7 of the 2019 Canadian Curling Club Championship. Denver, I was saying, it kind of grows the game and allows you to get new people out there. It's not the same teams that are coming back year after year, but also those it can be a real once in a lifetime opportunity if you're from a place like you in Alberta or Saskatchewan, where there are so many more club curlers. So you kind of cherish it even more, but it allows the smaller organizations to grow the talent that they have qualifying for these events.
Yeah, certainly, and yeah, the teams that have, or it's the provinces rather, that have a lot more curlers, it also, with that requirement of not allowing the teams to come back every year, it allows, like you say, more people, but yeah, with the provinces with more players, it also allows a few more people to experience this, especially as there's so many players, so it would be hard to even come back year after year anyway.
Yeah.
Center guard now here for the Northwest Territories as they're looking to maintain their lead.
Center guard, that's the first one we've really seen this game. This one needs to slow down on Carmen.
Yeah, interesting to see how the teams handle the way they're setting up guards or not. We've seen quite a variance of that over the past few games across really all the sheets, and it's been interesting to see how the strategy of these different teams and the way they look at the game really varies, which is refreshing. A lot of times you see it at the elite level, there's one specific way they play the game, and of course a lot of them have played each other for so long they know how that is, so it's refreshing to get a new perspective and see the different ways that some of these teams are looking at the game itself.
So the weight may be fooling both these teams in this 4th end, speeding up a bit more. This one will slip, I think, behind the tee line for Ashley. Might even go out the back door as Denise lays a broom to it. And it will slide just out the back.
Yeah, just out of play there, and so nothing in the rings at the moment, but there is that center guard. Nunavut choosing actually not to go around it and instead have called for a draw to the wings. What do you think about that call there, Darren, going to the wings rather than around the center guard?
Well, I mean, if you go back to a couple of ends we've now had where it's been plays to the wings, Nunavut has played really well with their draw weight, so they're maybe trying to play to their strength there, but you have the center guard, and if you have the draw weight, as they've shown, I'd be a little more inclined to use it and get behind it. But that said, if you're with hammer, you want to make sure that you at least have an open shot to the forefoot for Denise's last one to ensure you get the point. You're down 2.
Yeah, you don't want to give up a steal here, certainly. Even being forced isn't too bad. It'll keep you within 1 point, so that's the main thing there. Is you just don't want to let them pick up a lead greater than 2 at this point. It's a close game right now, only 3-1, so lots of time for Nunavut to get a couple points back and tie it up or even take the lead. So we'll be looking to see how they try and get some offense here.
So we'll get our second center guard of the game, right beside the other one.
And now I like certainly, it looks like she may be going for the peel here, and that is the call from Nunavut to try and spill that open. Sure, with those 2 guards, they might have them a little worried. They don't want their opposition going around there and having a rock buried in the top 4 behind 2 guards. That'd be tough to get rid of. So a little bit proactive here and trying to remove the danger before it can happen.
Kayleen Shoemaker. She's got one of the guards. Not sure if it's going to come up enough, though, to get the other, and it might just replace the color of that guard with her red.
Yeah, not much movement on that one there. That actually stayed fairly straight the whole time.
So a pretty good chance here for Northwest Territories to get behind cover if they can find the weight, find the curl, and sink one.
Yeah, we'll see if they're able to get around here. Taking a fair amount of ice. We've seen a good amount of curl here and looking to be on top of that there. The sweepers are off it. They're saying that it might be a little bit up weight here. I'm sure they'd love to be top 4, but you know, even buried at the back 8 is not bad. You've got something in play, and something buried, especially without the hammer, is always good, but this one doesn't quite want to walk over for them. The weight's actually quite close, but just didn't want to curl.
Yeah, great weight on that shot.
Yeah, right to the tee line there, so a little less ice may have gotten that fully buried, but she knows she's got the weight down now, and that's got to feel good.
Sweeper's trying to drag this out past the center guard, yellow. Good way to err on this one was to be inside and roll off the guard, which is exactly what Galen did. She didn't want to be wide and miss the other way. So opens it up.
Yeah, better to at least open it up, which is what they were going for last shot anyway. So a good plan B there, and it does spill the guard off to the side.
Kathy Heron with her first rock.
They'll be looking just to draw under this red remaining guard here. And
they're calling 7-8, but Denver, this one looks maybe even a little warmer than the last one.
Yeah, I think so. The weight was really close right on tee line for the last one. This one looks like it'll be sliding a little bit deeper. We'll see if it hangs on in the rings. It's starting to dig in, but
Denise will really lean on that. It's just out.
Good effort by her there to get it out of play. Nunavut third, Megan Ingram here, and her first stone of the end.
Megan calling that she was outside right out of her hand, but early sweeping, I think, brought that back.
Yeah, it started to curl quickly, but now it looks like it'll be coming right to the face of it, and it does. Looking maybe now for a little bit of a rollover is the Northwest Territories. They'll look to remove this stone and see if they could slide under that red guard. Kathy Heron delivers her final stone of this end.
Sweeper's calling up a bit, and it looks a little outside. Might not be a good combination, especially when we talked about outside the 4 foot with the up weight will run. And this one will run a little too much for Kathy. Chance for Nunavut to either split the rings or put one around that center. And Denise will try and split the rings here. Megan has made a number of these draws early in the game to I think this one's quite important. This can really help solidify your chance of a two-point end here if she can put this anywhere on the that side of the house.
Yeah, certainly, and really anywhere around the 8 foot on that side will be pretty good. The weight looks pretty close to me here as the sweepers get on this. Might be a little light, but I think it'll have enough to make it in.
Did they leave it too long? Denise out to help. They just want to make sure they get it in at least. And a great
Looks like
scrub.
it will be.
Good shot there.
Yeah,
The team from Iqaluit.
Really good positioning on that rock as well. It's not too deep and it doesn't really leave a freeze opportunity. So good positioning for them and good sweep there by the front end.
No time wasted there by Katrina Delory to call the hit and roll here. If she does make the perfect hit and roll, she might be Denver behind the tee line, but if she's at least behind the guard, it's a little more challenging for Nunavut to make the next shot.
Yeah, certainly, and that is my only concern with the hit and roll. It's great if you can make it, but leaving it behind the tee line, which to get it buried, it's probably where it would roll, and so does potentially leave a freeze opportunity, but a perfect hit and roll is always nice because you do force the other team to make a really tough shot.
Front end trying to drag this out. Wants to make sure she at least gets a piece of it, but this is going on the inside of the 4 foot, and that's going to be right through the middle there, unfortunately.
Yeah, that one started curling out of her hand, so front end was on it all the way, so good effort by them. Fortunately, not quite enough to straighten it out enough.
You can see Denise opting to, sometimes the best shot or the best guard is in the house, and that's what she's trying to do here. Guard the rock at the edge of the 4 foot with a stone in the house. If she comes up a little light, she'll be a guard.
Yeah, and certainly I think, especially having hammer, you like putting one in the house. You're down a couple, so a guard actually works out pretty good if it covers your stone there, because it does leave you some extra stones to play with, especially if your opponent's able to remove a couple of them. So I like the call to come into the rings rather than just leaving it tight.
Denise Hutchings and her first stone of this 4th end with last rock, trailing by 2. They're calling 3-4, which is what she was looking for. It's curling though.
Yeah, it starts to move off to the center as it comes down. They'd like to have it in the rings here, but I think the line might be a little bit more important in this particular case. And
good line.
Doesn't make it into the rings, but it does cover that stone almost perfectly. So a good judge by the sweepers to know and to know where the line was going on that one, knowing they wouldn't make it into the house, and they adjusted to make sure the line got there.
Katrina putting down the broom here for Kathy for Katrina's shot to corner freeze is, I believe, the call. And they're looking back, maybe considering a timeout. They actually, yeah, they did call a timeout. So with that, Paul Delory will come out, and you get a shot there of Paul. Paul played at a number of these, as we mentioned earlier, championships as a player with Northwest Territories. The father of Katrina. Coached also at a Scotties Tournament of Hearts too.
Got lots of experience by him, and he brings some good advice to them, I'm sure.
Coaches are, I didn't see an indication of it from on the ice originally, but coaches are permitted to call the timeout. The team has to call it, but I think Paul was maybe waving for that one to have a discussion with the team.
Yeah, and it's easy when you're on the ice to get a little bit lost in the game. So
Yeah.
sometimes just having someone, even just taking a moment to step back and look at it all as a team, and even if you don't have a coach come out, just to have a second to look at it a little bit more objectively and see what your options are.
Yeah, I think the thinking here, it looks like they've changed to perhaps a hit is probably Paul said to them, look, you're up 2. You can make a nice hit and roll here. You can maybe even be shot with a nice hit and roll here, but worst case, if you make the hit, you're going to give up 2 and be tied. If you don't make the freeze perfectly, or if you're short or heavy, you could give up 3, and suddenly you go to that all-important fourth end break with a little loss of momentum. So if they can like I said, Denver, they can make a hit and roll to sit shot even behind that guard.
Yeah, you know, I think you can make that hit and roll and actually be shot rock and buried at the same time. You might show a little piece of it, but certainly removing the stone as long as I think you make contact with it. Even if you leave it exposed, if it's really high in the house, it's likely Denise would draw anyway.
So a big shot for Katrina Delory here after a timeout, trying the hit and roll. She's got a piece of it. How much is she going to roll? Backed up a little bit and rolls right over to be shot rock. What a shot, and a
Fantastic
great timeout
shot.
discussion here with her team to make a perfect hit and roll and to sit shot rock partially buried behind the center guard.
Yeah, and you know, you're not going to be able to see much more than a third of the rock, I would say, from the hack, and that's just a perfect spot, and that's exactly what we said before she made it there, is if you make the hit and roll, you can be buried and shot rock, and she accomplished that. So great sweeping by the team there as well to make sure that stayed on the right line for her.
The other thing, too, for Northwest Territories is Denise Hutchings on Nunavut has made a lot of draws this game. So if you were to, you're forcing her this way into making a hit. So she's made most of her draws, and you want to switch that up. You want your opposition to be playing something that you haven't seen them doing as much. So this is a tough, quiet weight bump here for 2 points.
Yeah, and you know, the nice thing here is you don't have to throw a ton of weight. You only need to bump it a couple feet, especially if you hit it on a bit of an angle. It'll go sideways and out of the forefoot. Nice thing for Denise here is she is able to play a little bit quieter weight, so it's a little closer to something like a heavy draw, and she's played a lot of draws, so not forced to throw big weight here, which is probably to her advantage.
Final stone for Denise Hutchings and her Nunavut champion from the Iqaluit Curling Club. Nothing to it yet. Needs to warp over to the center line.
Starts to move now. It's really hanging out there, though, at the moment. And, a little redirect.
Redirect, but too much. And that will be a big steal for the team from Northwest Territories after a change of call that worked out very well for them, and a beautiful hit and roll by Katrina Delory on her last. So a 4-1 lead for Northwest Territories over Nunavut right now as we go into the fourth end break. We'll be back from the 2019 Canadian Curling Club Championship live from the Leduc Curling Club.
You're a team now. Like the four of us when we step on the ice. People say that this isn't a contact sport. But that's not true. It contacts you where you need it the most.
Curling! The game with the ice, and the rocks, and the sweeping, and the yelling. Each game starts with a handshake. Then, 2 teams of 4 people take turns throwing 44-pound stones down a sheet of ice. Each team throws 8 rocks, and the team closest to the center after all the rocks are thrown will score the points. This process is repeated for 6 to 10 rounds until one team is victorious. It's just that simple. Or is it?
One might say I was born to overcome challenges. 2 months premature, in and out of the hospital, and a heart condition. My parents call me their miracle baby. As with all survivors, I searched for my place in this world, and I found it here. This pebbled ice is where I battle now, and at only 12, I am already a 5-year veteran of this sport. I have my sights set on the Olympics. I will push hard to get there. The only size that matters in this sport is the size of your dreams.
Draw 7 coverage of the 2019 Canadian Curling Club Championship. Darren McEwen alongside Denver Suddy. And it's a 4-1 Northwest Territories lead over Nunavut, and Denver in those first 4 ends, one shot stands out at you.
Yeah, no question about it. It's the last shot from the 4th end there, and the one made just before it, in fact, as well. Nunavut was looking to set up a score of at least 2, and fantastic shot by Northwest Territories skip Katrina Delory. She made a perfect hit and roll buried underneath the guard, and Denise Hutchings, the skip from Nunavut, unable to remove it, and that led to the steal of 1. So could be a lot closer than it is right now, that's for sure.
And lots of time for Nunavut to play catch up here. 4 more ends at least to go. And we have the 5-rock rule, of course, in play here for the club championship.
Yeah, we've seen lots of extra ends already. One last night and several throughout the week as well. So lots of opportunities to get back in it and lots of excitement ahead.
Both these teams looking for their first win of the championship here in Leduc. Northwest Territories 0-3 right now, Nunavut 0-2. As we see Carmen Kuchu's rock right where Denise Hutchings called it, in the wings, in the house. Other women's games in action here for this draw. Saskatchewan, women leading 2-1 on Yukon right now. It's a 4-3 lead for the Quebec champions leading Manitoba. And Alberta is running away with their game over BC 6-0 after 4 ends of play. This just missing the in-turn hit for Ashley Rowe.
Yeah, just over curled on her there, and as we said before, those hits to the wings are tricky. Denise Hutchings, she does have a counter in there, so she'll be looking to come around this guard and see if she can get a second one in there. It's a second stone here from Carmen Coutu.
This looks like a great line on this, if it's got the right weight.
Yeah, they're scrubbing it as it goes close to the, oh, it just ticks
rubbed
off.
I heard Denise say, my bad, and just at the very end, they lost it. But regardless, it's in the house and it was perfect weight.
Yeah, the weight on that looked really nice. I imagine without the tick there, it'd probably be top 8, which would be a pretty good spot, but do have 2 counters in there now at least, and that's a good start for them in this end.
Dana King being asked for the in-turn hit. You can see Ashley Rowe trying to make it curl a little bit by sweeping it. She'll get a quarter of rock, roll out.
Yeah, full 8 sheets here in action. What's going on in the men's games right now, Darren?
Yeah, the Ontario men right now are undefeated in the event. They lead 3-2 against a strong team from Alberta. And Nova Scotia, another unbeaten team, locked in a 2-2 tie against Manitoba. Manitoba played an extra end this morning and dropped it to Yukon, so they're looking to bounce back, and they're giving a battle to the teams from the East. In the other men's game, Northern Ontario are up 5-0 on Nunavut. And the Northwest Territories men are tied 2-2 right now against a very strong team from Quebec who have yet to lose as well. So keep you updated, especially on those Nunavut and Northwest Territories men, as we know a lot of people watching from the territories for our feature game here. So
yes,
another
it's a battle of the North.
Yeah, yeah. And later today we'll have the Battle of Ontario at 6 p.m. Mountain Time. It will be a women's Northern Ontario versus Ontario game.
Yeah, looking forward to that one. There's always a bit of a rivalry at any championship, so I'm sure they're looking forward to playing each other.
Yeah, in fact, the Ontario women, I believe it was an extra end last night, dropped to Yukon. So the Yukon with a strong showing in the men's and women's so far here in Leduc.
Yeah, they've stolen each men and women have each stolen one of their last games away, so impressive stuff from them there.
Just a wick there by Dana King on her hit attempt. So we've got some play up the middle.
Chance to get a second stone into the rings here for Nunavut. So we see second Galen Shoemaker here with her second stone in the fifth end.
A little bit strong. Doesn't want to bump that right out. And that's what she'll do.
Yeah, just a little strong there, a little less, and it may have ended up buried underneath, but just a touch too heavy on that one.
Nunavut still controlling the 4-foot area.
Yeah, they've got some options. They've definitely got that one right on the center line, right close to the house. There's a great candidate to be bumped up, or should they need it, a run back. So definitely lots of options for them there.
Kathy Heron being asked to wrap one around, and the sweeper's out of her hand, calling a 6, which would be where they want it, but this one's diving towards the center.
Yeah, it looked like lots of line out of her hand, but this one's really moving.
Can they hold it to get by? Just a little wick. And enough to leave it open, but pretty good weight, maybe a little bit strong, but they needed to be on it anyways for the line.
Yeah, Wade, I think, was pretty close, just over curled a little bit on them there. And see Denise Hutchings calling them to take out this stone as Megan Ingram throws her first rock in this 5th end. This would be one of the first hits that Megan's been throwing. She's thrown a lot of excellent draws already this game, and this one comes up and it'll just remove that stone from play, and she'll spill the shooter as well.
Was talking about the Northwest Territories men playing a close game against Quebec. It looks like Quebec may have broken the game open just a little bit with either a 2 or a 3 to pull ahead. I believe it was 3, so a 5-2 lead for the Quebec men on Northwest Territories as they play the 6th end. We'll keep you updated on that. The Quebec team quite strong, as we mentioned. It actually just was 2, so it's still close. 4-2 Quebec leads. But in our game, Kathy Heron trying to repeat shot. This one's a little less weight. It might actually bump Nunavut in. I think they did just
Close, yeah, just a biter there right at the top, so Nunavut will be happy with a little bit of a bonus promotion from that, so that does allow them to have a rock in play.
Yeah, you could, I think that early discussion was to maybe bump in that, or bump up that red one, but you heard Denise say I'd like to get another one in there. If you bump the middle red one, you're still going to only be 1 in the house. So this is a chance for Megan, who's had a number of great draws this game, to wrap another one in there for Nunavut.
Yeah, there was some discussion as well about looking at maybe removing the yellow and rolling over, but I like getting a second stone in there, down a few points, so having a few extra counters around certainly could help them out. This one will slide a little deep. We'll see if it hangs on here as Heron sweeps it, and it does just, so they've got about half into the rings there at the back of the 12-foot. Some discussion here now by the Northwest Territories. There's a lot of stuff right at the front of the house, so some debate about what's the best way to go about it, and calling for a hit here. Looks like they might be going for the one in the house. And what do you think about that call there, Darren?
Well, I think you have to play the scoreboard, and I think that's probably what's determining this call, but you could also opt to put one in, or at least just hit the back one. If you're playing the scoreboard, you can hit the back one. You can still make the double on this. The trouble with it is if you just hit nose, Denver, you're going to leave an open draw for Denise to wrap one around to sit 2. I'm not sure, did they change? The ice has changed. I'm not sure. I think they're still probably trying to make the double. Would be the ideal, but not an easy shot.
A little less weight at it, I would imagine, and we've seen some of the higher weight shots have a little less curl, so likely looking just to get a little bit more control weight and have a little more say in the stone.
Tough shot though, 12-foot double, but she's close. She's really close on this one. Sweep to hold it. Not quite. They just needed to be on it a minute sooner, and that would have been there. But now you see chance for Denise to wrap one around, but even if she does, Northwest Territories has 2 yellow rocks that they can use on their last if they need them.
Yeah, that's right. They can promote them up if they have to, and actually quite close to making that double there, especially when they're spread out. You have a little more time for that rock to move through the rings, and now only missed it by about 4 or 5 inches by the time it got to the back there. So just a little higher on that rock, and it would have done it.
Well, this is an interesting call. I think she's thinking those rocks are in dangerous spot, but you have a chance to sink one, bury one behind there to get your 2, maybe even 3 points if you're able to kind of Christmas tree it, as we call it. Give a tougher shot, but looks like she is Nunavut is opting to remove one or both of those yellow rocks.
Yeah, and you know what I think could be behind that as well is they are in a fairly dangerous position, pretty easy to promote into the rings. This is the 5th end as well. Nunavut has hammer, so
change of call. They heard us.
Yeah, that's right. What I was thinking is she may be looking at potentially a blank, but it appears she's changed her mind, looking to go into the rings now.
Good change of call, and like we talked about in that last end, sometimes you get wrapped up in seeing something, and that was a good example of Denise seeing another option before she threw, and probably the right call here as she delivers her first rock of this 5th end.
Yeah, good discussion with her front end there as she came down and had another little think about it there, and they'll be looking to put this one in.
Really going to drag this. Even Denver biting would be.
Yeah, even a biter here would be big. Don't want to bump that yellow in, though. This will slide a little short. Line was actually pretty close there. I imagine with a little more weight, that would have been by.
So Katrina Delory can see pretty much all of this rock from the hack. She'll want to at least just make it go away. If she can get a little roll under, that could make the blank attempt or even put a force onto Nunavut in their last.
Yeah, would really like to stick the shooter here. You'd like to make Nunavut at least throw their last one here, as if they roll out, it'll be a blank. More than likely, and see how this rock ends up. Calling normal on the weight, so a little more than some of the previous hits, but this looks close.
It definitely has a piece of the red rock, and it's going to curl right up to the nose.
Yeah,
good shot.
Right on the lid. So Nunavut now will have to make the hit and roll not very far, just about a foot or so off to the, as we're looking at it here, the left, and that'll give her a blank.
You see there, Dana King sweeping just as we call it, directional sweeping, trying to make it curl. All these. One thing that's a little different compared to club play is that all of these teams at a national championship have to use the WCF-approved pads for their brooms. So any sort of directional sweeping would be, say, almost a moot point. But it's something, a little different rule. The other rule, of course, is that they're under a 30-minute time limit of thinking time. So something that they're maybe not used to at the club play. Neither of those things have really probably crept in as factors. I don't think we've had too many close time games yet, which is good to see. I think it almost goes the other way. Sometimes you go too fast. You see Denise here looking for the blank. She doesn't have a great deal of weight, so it should come up. Want to make sure.
Looks close. Looks like they're just going to take their point.
I guess they were just playing for the 1 point. And that's what it will be. So a 4-2 lead for the Northwest Territories, and they'll regain hammer here for the 6th end of play. Updating you on the other women's games in action here in the sheet next door to us. Yukon pulled out a big 3-ender in the 5th end, so they actually lead the team from Saskatchewan 4-2 right now. So the ladies from the Yukon continue their run, trying to take down a team in Saskatchewan that's had a good run so far here in Leduc. It's a 4-4 tie between Manitoba and Quebec in women's play. And finally, in the other women's game, Alberta is off to a 6-2 lead over British Columbia. All the scores at curling.ca/scoreboard, along with the standings in the playoff format. Carmen Tutu asked to play a center guard on her first. Sweeper's not touching it yet.
Yeah, an interesting decision there to take their one, but there is a case to be made. Sometimes teams, there's a little bit of the curse of the hammer, and sometimes teams just want to convert that over with their point and try and refocus on getting a force or a steal. So taking their point there and looking to get into position to steal or force.
A little light on Carmen's first. I didn't think it was that light out of her hand, and they weren't sweeping it right away, so I don't know if it grabbed something there, but didn't look that light.
Yeah, it stopped pretty quickly there, close to some of the logos there on the sheet, and it's settled down pretty quick, so. Thankfully, a pretty early rock in the end, so far they're at least not too much in trouble at the moment.
You see another light one here. Is that going to get over? Just over the line.
Just over the line. And
celebration there by the sweepers.
great sweep there by Dana King and Kathy Heron to get that over the line. Certainly you could draw around it, but it is over.
This is better weight here by Carmen.
Yeah, this one looks a lot closer. It's getting near the rings here, but we'll see if it settles down. It looks like it should. I don't think it'll be quite in the rings. Brings it close, and it's just in front there. So nice shot by her. Good recovery on that one. Calling it to be maybe a little warm here.
Trying to make it curl to get off that red one, but it is a little heavy to begin with.
You don't want to knock that in there for Nunavut, because it'll just slide. Thought that one might hang on there, but Denise encouraging that out.
Denise saying it's a bit inside, so they might change the call here to be a bump, but certainly has the weight to be close to biting. It's coming down now, though.
Yeah, we haven't seen a ton going away from center line on this side, so may have caught a little bit of pebble. But they do have, Nunavut does not have hammer, so a couple guards to come around potentially for them.
Timeout being called here by Northwest Territories. This is their second timeout, so that's it for their timeouts for the rest of this game.
Yeah, and they'll have 90 seconds to talk it over here. It's 2 90-second timeouts per team per game.
So what, Denver, what are your options?
Well, it's an interesting spot here. We've got a lot of guards. There's not a lot going on in the house, really. And so I think with hammer here, you're looking, in my opinion, I think it'd be might be a wise decision to draw behind these red guards that we have out front here. They are fairly tight to the house, and they are your opponent's stones. That's true, but if you could get one buried underneath, you would force Nunavut to make a fairly tricky shot to remove it. So as they discuss here and decide what they want to do, they do have a few options. They do have a yellow guard of their own, but it is quite high, so likely anything they tuck underneath it, unless it's pretty high in the house, would be fairly simple to remove. The other option is to peel those reds if you don't like the look of them. Nunavut does have the option to draw around them, so they may be looking at the peel as well.
And after consulting with Coach Paul Delory, it looks by the body language that they're probably going to peel the closer of the two reds. You could even try to peel both of them, but one at a time at this point. You're up 2 with hammer.
Yeah, I like the call to peel the close one. I think that's the more dangerous one. It's closer to the center line as well, so a lot easier to get some better rocks in the rings with the center guard that close.
Might get it on the sneaky way, which is the low side peel, and that works out just fine.
Yeah, rolls it off to the side there, pretty far over, and removes that one. So a little bit of a plan B, but still got the shot that they needed to make there. So good result.
3 draws today, live streamed for you, morning, afternoon, and then we have the night draw, all women's draw. All women's games, I should say. And this event, by the way, has a lot of women running the event, too. I think it's worth pointing out. We have our chair here, Kim, and head ice maker, Rhonda, chief umpire, Marg, and event manager, my colleague. So it is a full slate of women today and throughout this event. 12 other teams out here, including these two from each of the province and territories on the men's side, and another 14 on the men's side. Both the finals will be on Saturday. At the same time, we'll actually be broadcasting the women's final on the sheet.
And next game coming up here, it's at 6 o'clock, and that'll be Ontario versus Northern Ontario. That'll be the ladies' game. Dana King here is looking to remove the stone in the house, and just chips it.
Yeah, it was almost one of those cases where you might have called them off just to try and get the guard, but
yeah, try and build the guard.
Tough to call those. So Nunavut has a chance to put a little bit of pressure on Northwest Territories here if Megan Ingram can throw up a perfect center guard.
Yeah, and she's had her draw weight closely all game, and so guard should be fairly close, be in her wheelhouse for this game. Lots of line right now. This one's got to move a bit, but there it goes. They really will hook over near that hog line there. They'll start moving to center. And
got a good looking shot here. Splits the center line. Really nice result.
It's almost perfectly buried, so really nice shot there by Megan Ingram of Nunavut.
Northwest Territories here, and Kathy Heron may be able to get both those reds out. Actually, if she can hit just over, I'd say, half a rock, but it's still probably going to leave something in the front. So what she really wants to do is make sure she at least gets rid of one of the red rocks. Doesn't want to find the, there is a hole here, but doesn't want to find the hole.
Yeah, and you'll want to roll your shooter here as well as this.
And squirts right into the house. Perfect result. Great shot.
Yeah, really good result there. It moves both those red guards off to the sides and actually gets them one in the house, which not sure if they anticipated, but is, I'm sure, appreciated by them.
Yeah, great replay there to see. I don't think if she'd hit the center line one first and made that shot, she would have got the action on the yellow rock. So that she hit that outside one first was great result for her.
Yeah, absolutely. That's that was the order in which to hit them to get that stone moving into the rings like that.
And so it forces Nunavut to play a hit.
Sweepers called off this one. It looks close, but it might need to move a little bit more here. Stick around. And it'll get the yellow stone there out of play, but we'll roll the shooter as well. So Nunavut with just the one stone in play. Top of the button.
They're calling Ashley Rowe on this to try and get this to curl. It needs to get over past the center line, and this will be a miss from the Northwest Territories, unfortunately.
Chance now for Nunavut to get one on the side of the rings, over in the 12-foot or anywhere around there, and a chance to force Northwest Territories to take a single, which would be a great outcome for Nunavut.
May have heard some applause a minute or two ago. The Saskatchewan contingency here, quite large, behind the glass up on the second level, cheering for 2 points for the Saskatchewan women. So they've came back and tying this one up with Yukon 4-4 in the women's game next door. They're playing the 7th end.
It'll be the first stone here for Denise Hutchings of Nunavut, as she'll look to likely get another stone in the ring. So although given the ice, she may be actually going for a guard on her own stone.
Calling 2, which would be right on the Curling Club Championship logo in the middle. They're wanting it to curl a little bit. Now they're just trying to finish it. Weight's pretty good. And it will partially guard that rock. Might be able to see about maybe half of the rock from the hack that Katrina's going to be throwing from at the other end.
I would say about half. Weight was pretty close there. I think the sweepers, they had a good discussion coming down, and they had heard Denise there calling if they could get off of it, wanting it to curl, but also not wanting to leave it super high. Of course, the higher you leave it, the easier it would be to get around. So looking for a bit of a combination of both there, a little bit of line and also bring it in a little further. So good communication there from Nunavut.
With that ice, we saw Kathy Heron holding for Katrina. It looks like they'll be playing quieter takeout weight on this one. Katrina Delory, her first rock of this 6th end, leading by 2 with hammer, facing one Nunavut counter in the 4-foot, half guarded. Sweepers really got to scrub this to get it by the guard. And this one's going to crash.
Yeah,
Will it tap the red one in, though? It's really down weight. Might just bump that red one right into the house. To see Ingram up to sweep it.
Hits it enough on the high side of that stone that it won't bump it in. It got close, though, so... but at least, yeah, not into the rings.
Yeah, it unfortunately blocks if Denise puts the rock even back where she had it there, partially guarding it, the counter is also blocked that path she just threw with her shooter. So Denise's guard is not as difficult as it was the last time, but still critical that she gets it in that area of the logo in the middle.
Yeah, just even split center, but you certainly want to at least get to the center line, and ideally a little bit off the side of it there would be just about the perfect spot, right on that logo, like you said, and would force a really precise draw from Northwest Territories to get the single.
Denise Hutchings with her final rock of this 6th end, sitting shot rock in the 4-foot. He's calling about the same for weight. It's a little less line right now.
This one starts to move, so they'll need to be on it.
It's okay if they just touch the yellow. It might be better than burying it behind the yellow, which is maybe what they're going to do. Yeah, it still leaves that open for Northwest Territories. Can see about a half a rock if they're opting for the blank here, Denver.
Yeah, it's definitely still makeable, and actually about what you can see is about what you need to hit anyway to roll out if you are looking for the blank. So an option here for Northwest Territories to get themselves out of this without giving up a steal, and certainly a chance to blank as well. With that rock there from Denise Hutchings, just over curling. The weight was really close, but just over curled. May have been better to leave it a little bit and try and get the chip off the yellow, but it was a close judge by the sweepers, certainly, as they talked about it as it came down.
A lot of ice on this one, Denver. I think she might be playing a quiet weight for the single.
Yeah, that's not a bad choice here. As long as you, I mean, at least as long as you remove that red stone, you're probably looking pretty good. Even if you aren't going for the blank, you'd be taking a 5-2 lead if this is made, and that'd be pretty good. So we'll see if this one comes up for them here. It looks a little wide out of their hand, as we see there Ashley Rowe looking to try and get some directional movement out of there, but it doesn't look like it. As
Katrina actually turned around a bit at the hog line there, knowing that that one's going to sail by. So a big steal for Nunavut after trailing by 2. It's now a 4-3 game for the team from Northwest Territories as we head to the 7th end in this 8-end game.
And just got a lot closer there as well.
So the other women's games in play, we had, as we mentioned just a moment ago, it's a 4-4 tie now between Saskatchewan and Yukon right next door. You see the end shaping up there, the 7th end shaping up in that one. It's now a, let me do my math here, it's a 6-3 lead between, for Quebec on Manitoba. Quebec women off to a great start in Leduc. And I believe we have our first final between Alberta and BC. The Alberta women winning 9-2, the host province there. So they will improve their record further, and BC will drop another in the women's event. All important 7th end in a 1-point game. Nunavut will want to keep the steel train going if they hope to win this one.
Yeah, another good option for Nunavut here is if they can force Northwest Territories and take the hammer down 2 coming home. We've seen that time and time again in a lot of games over the years, down 2 with hammers. So that's another option for them as well. A steal would be, I'm sure, welcomed as well. So a couple options for Nunavut here to try and get a lead.
Some good positivity there from Denise. And a nice tight guard. Presumably, she'd be thinking her next one would be a long guard. We have seen a little bit later in the ends on this curling club ice, as a lot of curling clubs that you played on, you get into like the 6th, 7th end, that slide path will slow down a little bit. And I think that surprised them a little bit on that one. They thought that was going to slip in, but it slowed down just in time. So I'm sure by now, after playing 3 or 4 games, that these teams have picked up on that later in the games, that the slide path will slow down a little bit more than it would early in the game.
Yeah, and with the 5 rock roll we have, of course, as well, the options now for Nunavut to put up a second guard and then potentially go around them after that. So they've definitely got options here to get some rocks in play and under cover for themselves.
They're calling 3-2, which would be good, but I'm not sure if are they playing the tap, was the call?
I think the call might have been the guard, but once they saw that the weight would be a little up, they're going for the tap. And
yeah, it's a tap. It's about 3/4 open. Now, she is calling the hit on this, but she can't actually hit it. So hopefully, is there any discussion around this? Doesn't look like it. So with the 5 rock rule, I thought she said normal. It isn't quite normal out of her hand, so it might be okay. And it is wider, so I don't think she's in danger of removing that center line guard. But if she did, it would actually be set back. She might actually clip the back one. Not quite.
Yeah, with that 5 rock rule that we mentioned earlier, being as it still lead rocks, Ashley wouldn't have been able to remove that stone there without it, at least not effectively, as it would just go back to where it was before.
So you can feel a little bit of momentum shift here in this game. It was a 4-2 lead for Northwest Territories, but a steal and a couple of good rock placements by the Nunavut lead. And
as we see Kayleen Shoemaker here in her first stone in the 7th end. Calling it to be a little bit warm at the moment. Redirect off that guard, not quite, as it'll slip by.
And this one looks a little heavy too. Might dig in. Not quite.
Not quite. We've seen quite a few rocks actually where you think they might start slowing down towards the back of the house, but especially sort of around those 4-foot lines. It's fairly keen still, so not slowing down too much at the back.
So now they can remove that guard, and that's what Katrina's calling.
Yes.
Is the, either one of those Red Rocks can go away on this call.
Yeah, I think you'd prefer it to be the guard there, but plan B on the other one's not a bad call at all. Yeah, and it's a nice shot there as they'll remove the guard, so good, nice weight on that peel of that guard. So one lonely Nunavut stone in the rings there.
So Denise now looks like she's playing to the wing.
There is that yellow guard there off to the side, so could get under that and sit 2 and have 1 buried, which would be a good result.
Northwest Territories fans watching this one and following the men as well. It's 6-3 now for Quebec in that men's game as they get ready to play the 8th end. These are all 8-end games. And we have another final out there, Northern Ontario men getting past Nunavut 8-1. That one was over after 7. So a little bit light on that shot, Denver, and it's actually another corner guard for Northwest Territories to potentially use and generate some points.
Yeah, I'm a little surprised to see them going after this one here, but they do have the hammers, so looking maybe just to remove the opponent's stone and then try and generate some offense after. Almost actually got a roll underneath it there, but will remain open, so chance now for Nunavut to, they can see all of it with a little bit of extra room as well, so chance to hit and just roll underneath.
Megan Ingram on it early as the front end tries to get this by that yellow.
This one looks a little tight.
A lot of encouragement here from Denise.
Yeah, they're doing a great job sweeping it so far, and
line.
they straightened it out a bit there actually, so will get by nicely.
And she has been dynamite on those draws today.
And that's almost the perfect weight too. If they'd had a touch more ice, that would have been above the tee line, but just fantastic draw weight from Megan Ingram today of Nunavut. So great shot, and is fully buried behind that yellow guard and just sneaks by there as we take a look at the replay.
So because it's behind the tee line, Katrina's opting to, looks like, freeze down to it. She could play. I think her first instinct was to play the run, if I saw that correctly. But
yeah, it looks like they were looking at it for a while. But you know, this isn't a bad call as well. If you can get down there, you still have your guard in there. Risk by trying the run back is if you miss it, you don't have that guard there anymore for yourself. So this one looks to be running a little wide at the moment, though, a little warm. So just not quite catching the curl as it got close on the line, but just a little extra weight, so not able to make any contact with that stone. Now Denise Hutchings will be calling a center line guard. Looks like, unless she's, looks like she's still going for that center line guard, and that's a good spot to put it if she gets it right on center line, as that'll actually stagger her own guard if it gets there, with the yellow guard making any runbacks quite tough. So could end up in a really good spot here if the weight's close. This one's hanging out there a little bit. It might be the path. We just saw Northwest Territories go by on this exact same path. This one is slowing down now, though.
Great shot. Another great draw.
Yeah, she's had her draw weight all game, a little deeper than they called, but the same effect. It provides the stagger on the guards, and so you can't, Northwest Territories can't run that yellow straight back and remove that one on the back four there.
There's a big game out there for standings implications. The Quebec women are 3-0 right now, and they're taking on Manitoba 2-1. And actually, they just shook hands, but it was a huge 6-ender. It was a chance to draw actually for 7 for Manitoba, but they shook hands before. But that's a big win for Manitoba to stay at, or to move to 3-1. As we look at a nice chip out there by Kathy Heron.
Yeah, interesting now as we get a little bit later on in the week to look at the standings, and that'll end up then with Quebec moving to 3-1 as well. So
yeah, really important, and the head-to-head could be important with your standings overall. So the team from the Fort Rouge is responded after a loss earlier, and that whole team has won this women's event before, so they'll be feeling pretty good after a big one there. Final was 12-4, but it was a close game up until that point.
yeah, score doesn't tell the whole story all the time if you just take a look at it, as it was close all the way.
So another chance here for Denise to steal this end. She's going to try and ensure that rock in the 4-foot is counting by the end of it so that they can at least get right back into this game.
Yeah, and that rock's in a fantastic spot for her there. It was put there by Megan Ingram, who you now see holding the broom down there. And so a chance now to try and safeguard that stone. Now we see them start to jump on it. It looks out there on the line, but we've started to see them move very aggressively towards the center as it takes a dive now. It quite light.
This is almost one of those over and off cases. They're still sweeping it, but they're dragging it towards the center line. I think they want to probably block the path of that one. There is still the run for Northwest Territories, and I guess that's what they were trying to protect against.
Yeah, I think so. That's just offset there. So you have to get a little cute to those two guards to make that run. So if they do try to take this on here, the Northwest Territories, it won't be it'll be through a little bit of a port, so always something to be mindful of. Little wide, little tight could be an issue on that one, so they're just looking at some options here. Northwest Territories in the 7th end, no timeouts left for them.
If they do hit nose, they will still be in the house, just barely.
Yeah, and that'd be a great shot if they can pull that off. They'd be sitting 2. With that one dead buried if they got right to nose. They take aim here, and it does look like they'll be taking on that run back. So definitely a chance to get through that port. You can see almost all of that stone, if not all of it, from the hack. So probably looking just to hit it right on the nose, and that would leave them counting too with the yellow they'll promote to be buried. So if they can nose this here, that'd be a really great result, as they do have hammer in this end.
Katrina's made a number of good hits in this game, so I think back to the 4th end and the
that hit and roll was just perfect.
It's definitely the shot of the game so far, and changed kind of the momentum, but certainly you can feel that shifting a little bit back to Nunavut in these last 2 ends. Katrina Delory looking for the straight run on the yellow. This is going at that red guard.
Yeah, this one's taking a dive over, and they will be on that red guard.
Might even bump it into the yellow or right into the house.
Oh, and that over curls on them a little bit to allow that, but so does move their yellow a little farther, but does take that run back away, although that red is now completely exposed. So last shot coming up here for Nunavut, and Denise Hutchings, as she'll be looking to guard it up right on just off the center line there. She's been good with her guards, has Denise.
She has. Yeah, she's had good good guard weight. It's a matter of line, but she's got a bit of room for error on this one. She really can plug that hole. Even just a little would make it a little bit more difficult, but does not want to leave an opportunity here for her opposition to get 2 points.
Yeah, certainly a force would be fine and a steal would be great here, but yeah, you do not want to give up 2 right now, so do have a little bit of wiggle room as long as you're in between some of those guards that we can see there. There's the one in the top 12, the red stone, and the one off to the side, so if you're in between there, that's a pretty good spot. I'd like to see probably around a tight guard, and I think that's what they've called. They're right off this one, though.
Should curl, and it might over curl actually on them, unless they're going to drag it right in and bump off the red.
Yeah, they
which
could
would be
bounce
plan
off
B.
the red.
You can hear Denise say bounce it just a bit.
And it does, and so it is.
Is that enough, though? There's still a hole there, Denver, to get 2 for Northwest Territories.
There is. It's a lot trickier now. That stone being in the way with a little bit of movement does make it, it's a lot tighter of a port, but you can certainly get in there. You could see probably about half that stone.
We have another final in the men's, and of interest to those watching from Northwest Territories. Quebec finished off the Territories in the 8th end. 6-3 the final there, so the Quebec men will move to 4-0 here in Leduc. And in the 2 other men's games that are happening, it's 5-5 right now, Nova Scotia, Manitoba, and 4-3 for Alberta, leading Ontario in this 7th end, as Ontario will look, I believe, to blank this 7th end. And they do just that, so they'll continue that score into the 8th. But in this one, big shot for Katrina Delory, biggest shot of this game so far. Find the hole, make contact with the red, try and get your 2 that way. Should be, with the weight she's been playing on her hits, pretty automatic if she finds the hole that she'll stick around for 2.
Yes, you'd like to stick around. Even a rollout isn't bad. You'd still score you 1, but you'd love to get 2 here.
Just needs to curl.
It looks close, but it's got to come off that guard. Starts to move now. It's
trying
close.
to work, not a lick to it, and that will be another steal for Nunavut. And we are going to the 8th end, all tied up at 4, as the steal train continues for the team from the Iqaluit Curling Club.
Yeah, and Northwest Territories, though, will take the hammer into the 8th end.
Yeah, you have to kind of park that the momentum of Nunavut for the last couple ends of your Northwest Territories and just think you have hammer, you're tied, and you'd rather be tied with hammer than without, so you do have the advantage in this 8th.
Yeah, and likely they'll look to keep the 4-foot open to a certain extent to leave themselves a draw on the last hit should they need it.
These 2 teams, again, Nunavut's in action tonight. They'll take on the women from Newfoundland and Labrador, and the Northwest Territories are off until tomorrow afternoon at 4:30 Mountain, when they'll also take on the team from Newfoundland and Labrador. Carmen Coutu with her first rock here. She set up a couple of great ends later in this game that have really helped Nunavut to bring themselves back in. So if she can get a guard up here, it will be another good start. And that looks like what she's doing, although this is really...
This is slowing down on them. We've seen a couple right in this path slow down right at the end. We had the one, it was coming the other way, but a similar area that just squeaked over the line. But this one makes it over with a couple feet to spare, so just off the center.
A long guard to start, and presumably a short guard will be the next call. But Katrina Delory asking Ashley Rowe to draw to the wings. That could, in a lot of cases, when you're tied and you're drawing to the wings, that could be the counting point. But it also could be a rock that you use. If it's top 8 foot, we saw in our opening draw here at the club championship, the Yukon used a rock that was in the 8 foot all throughout the end, and it became the crucial rock that they used to win the game. This one's sliding, but it's in a spot we haven't seen a lot of rocks slide down, so it might find the breaks in time.
Yeah, we haven't had a ton of rocks down there, although it is starting to run out of paint, and it will slide out of the rings certainly, and that's the interesting thing too here with that high center guard thing, with especially with the 5 rock rule, is if you call a tight guard on your first but you come a little light, you have a chance on your second to set up that tight guard, and then they're off to the races in terms of their positioning of the stone. So this one has been called to be a tight guard, and we'll see if Carmen is able to put it there for them. Does look to have a little more weight than the last, so this one is looking pretty close here. Matter of how much it'll curl as it starts to edge towards the center line here.
A good scrub to get that in the house.
Yeah, and that's just top 12 there. Northwest Territories here will be looking just to hit it as Ashley Roth will throw her second rock of the event.
Sweeper's calling control, but it is a little outside. Dana King being asked to direct it back to the center, and then that's not going to do it.
Close though, it did start to get some movement towards it, but you know, maybe better actually to avoid it there. If you're only going to get a tiny bit, you don't want to knock them completely buried under their own guards. So some deliberation here. If Nunavut has a chat about what the best position for their next stone will be. First stone of the end here for Nunavut's Galen Shoemaker. Calling it to be a little bit warm right now. Sweeper's right off. And it'll slide out the back there, so no change in the house for the last two shots there, with a trade of misses from both teams.
Dana King here. One or the other. And she will get the top one, but is she just going to replace the color? Unfortunately, she will.
Yeah, just curled up a little bit too much on them there to get the roll away. Denise Hutchings will ask Galen Shoemaker here to try and get one in the rings. She's got a second chance now.
This one's hot as well, Denver. They're calling 5, but I think this is a little stronger than that.
I think this one has a better chance to hang on, though, than the last one. So
Sweeper's being called now on it.
Catch up to it, but it looks close. I don't think we'll see this slide out for sure. And
so slip behind the tee line, but it's at least it's in for that. And I don't think it's going to be something that Katrina is going to go for yet. The problem rocks are those guards.
Yeah, and you know, even if they did come down to make a freeze on it, they'd be leaving all of that button open, and Nunavut could freeze right back on them, and that could be critical. That could take the whole end away if it's that solid locked on. So better to go after the front ones right now, I think.
We watch Dana King here. This is a better throw on this one.
Yeah, this one looks really close.
She's got the front red.
See if she
roll off.
She won't stick around, but primary goal there complete as they remove that protective red stone. First stone here from Megan Ingram of Nunavut, who's had just fantastic draws all game here and is now looking for another one of similar, although they have said it might be a little warm. They're looking for around top 12, top 8, but they're thinking it might be closer to the back 4 foot here. See if it digs in.
Just updating you on a game next door to us here. It was the 8th end. Yukon came into it leading 5-4. Saskatchewan with an undefeated 3-0 record had last rock and was facing a few Yukon counters. And their rock slid just a little too far. And we'll just get a quick replay here of that shot. You can see Saskatchewan throwing red. So another big win for Yukon on the women's side. That will slide just a little too far, and they will steal the win. So Yukon will actually go to 2-1, while Saskatchewan drops to 3-1 on the women's side. But back in our game, it's Nunavut hoping to keep their steals going, but Northwest Territories just wants to try and keep it open right now. And Northwest Territories and the team from the Hay River Curling Club has last rock as we play Vice Rocks here.
Yeah, and a little rub and roll off that guard for Northwest Territories a moment ago. They were trying to sneak underneath, and so opportunity now for Nunavut to put one in a good spot. This one's not curling as much as they would like. Not
Get a little wick.
Little roll.
Oh, they just missed the wick.
Still does help to close up that hole, though. That's a kind of a tricky one to get to. It's a bit of a strange port, but you could draw through it, but more than likely they'll go the other way, or they'll start looking at the guards. And that does look like what Katrina Delory is going to ask Kathy Heron here to go after this guard. I like this call, Darren. I think it's time to open up the front. You know, we're on third stones here, and they gotta have they'd like to have an opportunity to have a nice draw into the center.
If she does happen to run it back, it is at least her color too, if it does over curl.
Yeah,
or gets nose. It's coming up, but has she got nose?
Just
Not
high.
quite, and she'll roll it off a little off the center line. Two games still in action, both men's games out there. Alberta looking to hand Ontario men their first loss. Alberta leads 4-3 right now, playing the 8th end. And the other game is all locked at 5. Nova Scotia also undefeated so far at this point. And they're playing Manitoba. They're at Skip Rocks there. We'll update you if that game finishes before we go off the air. But all the scores, standings, and rosters at curling.ca/scoreboard. You can also find news events from this Curling Club Championship at curling.ca as well. Denver, it's a case of Denise Hutchings playing another guard, and she's made most of her guards. She's had a lot of them to throw these last 3 ends, and that's usually the case if you're trying to steal.
Yeah, and they've had good draws in there as well. That's been aided in part certainly by Megan Ingram, Nunavut third, and she's made some great ones. And so Denise has had the chance to make these guards to secure some stones. So you hear them calling for sweeping there. This one starts to over curl. They'll want it over the line.
Got to get that over. It's over, but not really a guard of anything, at least for the out-turn path.
Yeah, and it doesn't protect, at least it doesn't protect their the Nunavut stone that's at the back of the 4 foot that you see there. And so just the case there, I think more so line is maybe it's just a little light more than anything, not so much really over curling, just a little light.
Katrina Delory in her first rock of this 8th end. Holds on to the hammer. They're on it, but it looks a little hot right now. On it for line. They're called heavy there, and that's where they backed off.
Both parties ready to sweep here. And
great shot. And you can see a little bit of a sigh of relief there from Katrina Delory after a couple of tight ends. That's a good it's a good boost of confidence. If she does have to play a draw, she at least knows what the feel is. Maybe take off a couple feet from it, but pretty close to being what she needs.
Yeah, and pressure now on Denise Hutchings of Nunavut. If she can get this frozen, it would be pretty tough to remove, and that could definitely result in her stealing this game away. But this one does have to be pretty close, and you do need to get shot rock here. Even if you do bump that yellow a bit, that's okay, but you need to get shot stone here to have a chance at stealing this one away.
Nova Scotia men picked up the win there, so they'll stay at 4-0. They defeated Manitoba. They'll move to 1-3. Denise Hutchings, though, is looking for her first win and the team from Nunavut in the Iqaluit Curling Club. She's got a great chance to lock one on. It's going, though.
Weight looks close.
Front end to Kutu and Shoemaker trying to drag this right to the button. Lots of encouragement from Hutchings. Really got to drag this, though. And it's going to come up short.
A little short there, and so it will be Northwest Territories that will pick up the win in this game, and it's like final score will be 5-4, and Northwest Territories with their first win.
One shot really stands out to this game, Denver. It was the 4th end when we saw a hit and roll from Katrina Delory, but man, the grit that was shown there by Nunavut to fight right back and steal their way in 6-7 and apply a lot of pressure there in the 8th end. It was a great game. We'll be back at 6 p.m. Denver, thanks for calling this game with me. And we'll be back tonight with Ontario, the Battle of Ontario. Ontario versus Northern Ontario in the women's event. For Darren McEwen and Denver Suddy, I'd like to thank you for joining us at the 2019 Canadian Curling Club Championship live from the Leduc Curling Club. We'll see you this evening.